Child, we really want to have a talk about web security. I gradually folded down onto the floor close to him. His PC was open and he was playing Minecraft on a public server. His eyes were gotten into the activity. Remarks looked down the side of the screen in a talk box. Child, might you at any point stop your game briefly? He left the world, shut the PC, and gazed toward me. Father, is this going to be another messy, alarming story? What? I faked being put in a horrible mood briefly, and afterwards smiled at him. I thought you enjoyed my useful examples. He grew up paying attention to my tales about kids who experience witches, phantoms, werewolves, and savages. In the same way as other ages of guardians, I utilized terrifying stories to support ethics and show examples of well-being. Single parents like me ought to utilize all the nurturing devices available to them. He scrunched his face a bit. They were fine when I was 6. Yet, now that I'm progressing in years, they don't unnerve me any longer. They appear to be somewhat senseless. In the event that you will recount the web, could you at any point make it extremely terrifying? I squinted at him distrustfully. He collapsed his arms. Father, I'm 10 and I can deal with it. Gee, all right, I'll attempt. I started. Sometime in the distant past, there was a kid named Colby. His demeanor demonstrated that he wasn't dazzled with the fear of the presentation. He murmured profoundly and got comfortable with one of Father's messy stories. I proceeded. Colby went on the web and joined a few youngsters' sites. Sooner or later, he began conversing with different children in-game and on the message sheets. He befriended an additional 10-year-old kid named Helper23. They loved similar computer games and shows. They chuckled at one another's jokes. They investigated new games together. Following a while of companionship, Colby gave Helper 23 6 jewels in a game they were playing. This was an exceptionally liberal gift. Colby's birthday was coming up, and Helper 23 needed to send him a cool present. All things considered, Colby figured it wouldn't damage to give Helper 23 his place of residence, as long as he vowed not to tell it to any outsiders or adults. Helper 23 swore he wouldn't tell any other individual, not even his own folks, and set about mailing the bundle. I stopped the story and asked my child, "Do you feel that was really smart?" "No," he said, shaking his head vivaciously. Despite himself, he was getting into the story. Well, neither did Colby. Colby felt remorseful about offering his street number, and his culpability started to develop. What's more, develop. When he put on his nightwear the following evening, his culpability and dread were bigger than whatever else in his life. He made plans to concede reality to his folks. The discipline would be steep, yet it was worth the effort to have an unmistakable soul. He wriggled in his bed as he trusted that his folks would wrap him up. My child realized the unnerving part was coming up. Notwithstanding his intense talk, he inclined forward, wide looked at. I talked unobtrusively and purposely. He heard every one of the commotions of the house. The clothes washer skipped around in the pantry. Branches scratched against the block outside his room. His child sibling cooked in the nursery. Furthermore, there were a few different clamors he proved unable. Very pinpoint. At last, his father's strides reverberated a few doors down. "Hello, Father?" he called out anxiously. "I have something to tell you." His father put his head in the entryway at a bizarre point. In the murkiness, his mouth didn't appear to move, and the eyes were completely off base. "Indeed, child." The voice was off track as well. "Are you okay, Father?" the kid inquired. "Uh-huh," sang the dad in his unusually impacted voice. Colby pulled his covers up protectively. Is Mother around? I'm right here. Mother's head jumped into the entryway underneath Father's. Her voice was an unnatural falsetto. Is it true or not that you were going to let us know that you gave our personal residence to Helper 23? You shouldn't have done that. We told you never to give out private data on the web. She proceeded. He wasn't exactly a youngster. He just professed to be one. Do you have any idea what he did? He came to our home, broke in, and kept the two of us to make sure he could invest some energy with you. A chubby man in a wet coat arose in the youngster's entryway, holding the two cut-off heads. Colby screamed and heaved as the man dropped the heads on the ground, unsheathed his blade, and moved into the space to chip away at the kid. My child shouted as well. He turned his hands protectively over his face. In any case, we were simply getting everything rolling with the story. Following a few hours, the kid was practically dead, and his shouts had become whines. The executioner saw the moaning of a child in one more space and took out his blade from Colby. This was an extraordinary treat. He had never killed a child and was amped up for the possibility. Helper 23 passed on Colby to kick the bucket and followed the cries through the house like a homing guide. In the nursery, he strolled to the den, got the child, and embraced it. He moved towards the changing table to get a superior look. Be that as it may, as he held the child, the crying subsided. The child turned upward and grinned. Helper 23 had never held a child. However, he delicately bobbed it in his arms like a star. He cleaned his horrendous hands on the sweeping so he could stroke the child's cheek. Hi, sweet little man. The wonderful fury of perversion dissolved into something hotter and milder. He left the nursery, brought the child back home, named him William, and raised him as his own. After I completed the story, my child was apparently shaken. Between worn-out staccato breaths, he stammered, "However, Father, my name's William." I gave him an exemplary father wink and disheveled his hair. Obviously it is, child. William ran up the steps to his room in a wrath of wails. In any case, where it counts, I think he preferred the story.